Well, we're here today at McCullochs Engineering in Bendigo, a diversified, family-owned engineering company, providing these specialist machining parts for giant companies like Thales, a company that's driving a lot of innovation in modern manufacturing, a company that proves that you can make things in Australia, that you can create jobs off the back of that, and you can create a whole new skill set which taps Australia into those big supply chains around the world. So Steve, you're taking over the business in a couple of weeks from your father.
I am, yes.
Tell us kind of what you do here and the sort of innovation that you're producing here in terms of assembling those kind of quite specialised parts, saving money in the supply chain.
We've started out in relatively humble beginnings, just basically dealing with the agricultural market, and over time that's evolved into dealing with rail projects to manufacturing specialised equipment for certain industries, being asked to problem solve for certain clients, and Thales is one of those, and we've been fortunate enough to work alongside Thales with the manufacturing of the Hawkeye. So this is the original shed. It was built in 1972, so we've been in this shed for 50 years.
Wow.
As you can see, we're fairly diverse with the product that we work on. We're working on tractors, repairing hydraulic cylinders. We've got a full-time auto electrician. We'll go into the machine shop in here. So these lathes have come from Thales, or it was ADI, and then before that was the Ordnance Factory. So they're the original lathes from there that came in around mid to late 70s. We've just installed a NC machine. It's a 3-axis machine. So it does all your drilling. It can run this way, it can run that way, and do all your internals.
Given like Australia's not ever going to get out of mining, we're going to move to critical minerals, those sorts of things. Tell us about those drilling rigs and what they do and how you produce them here.
We had a customer come to us in the mid-early 90s, wanted us to build a rig for him because he couldn't find one that suited his needs, and we worked with him and drafted and designed that rig and then sort of put it on the back burner until there was come a time that the ag industry went through a bit of a downturn, and we went back to the drawing board to see what worked and went into manufacturing our own branded rigs. So again, that's just evolved. We now import rigs from South Korea, and again, that's been a great side to the business, but the mining is at the moment going really well. So we manufacture these for the drilling industry. It's called an SPT hammer. This is one of our own products. It's got an element of hydraulics in it.
So who would be your main customers for this?
Things like the Westacott tunnel and infrastructure projects. There's some painting going on in there today, so bakes to 70 degrees as well, but we can fit a full truck or a bus in there and paint it and bake it, so we control the whole process all the way through.
So you've sort of worked out where on the kind of supply chain you can sort of add value.
That's all we do is add value. We try to anyway. That's how we've been so successful with Thales is we've been able to get 10 items and make it one, and then supply one product rather than them have 10 or 15 different suppliers. They deal with one purchase order, and then we make the rest happen.
So I'm here with Ken McCulloch, who's been the driving force behind McCullochs Engineering. So Ken, you're retiring in a couple of weeks. You're not going to go on the golf course, you're going to do the training of people here. But tell us what you're going to be doing with people to help them get these skills that you've developed.
What I would really like to do is pass on some of the skills that I've learnt to our staff. As our business grows, getting skilled tradespeople and skilled technicians has always been hard. But it's becoming more so these days. We want to be the people who know how to do stuff. The only way is then to have skilled people, and it's what's brought us to where we are now in the evolution of our business, and I just want to keep that and get that more formalised.
So where have you sourced the people working here? Like what backgrounds? How do you recruit people?
I love giving kids out of school a start in a career path. I always tell kids that I'm always keen to work with what you know. And if you've had someone and you know they're keen and they're not going anywhere, and you can give them extra responsibilities and let them step up the line, that's some of the most satisfying part of being the employer, I think, is seeing people grow.
And you've got a lot of people working here, but I noticed, and I spoke to one of the young women apprentices, where do you recruit, how do you train, do you do most of the training on the job?
Yeah, the guys, all our apprentices on site go and do all their schooling at Bendigo TAFE, which is a great facility. They get great skills from going to do their trade school there.
Do you think we do good enough in helping kids when they're at school think about careers like this, thinking about coming in?
No. Unfortunately, a lot of the career people in the schools struggle to know what opportunities there are around for the school leavers, and a lot of young kids in Bendigo think they've got to go to Melbourne to get a job and start, and that's just not so. There's Bendigo's manufacturing base is really broad, and there's no or very few big players. They're mostly small, a lot of them family-owned businesses, and nobody knows. People walk down the street and walk past the door every day, and they have no idea what's going on behind the door. And what's going on, some of it is world-class. What we've got to do is open the door up and show the kids some of the opportunities that are available around.
I mean, you've got some young women working here. You know, what's the obstacle to more women working in these industries? Is it sort of like schools not encouraging them to do it? What's the kind of barrier?
I think that is changing now, and the non-traditional roles are not necessarily non-traditional anymore. And you saw a couple of the girls out. That is like a breath of fresh air. And I worried that the male-dominated workshop would be a challenge, but it hasn't been at all. In fact, it's changed it a little bit, but it's a very positive change. Yeah. The young ladies we've got there now are really doing extremely well.
How do you teach people to problem solve? Because that's how you've obviously built the business. You've seen a problem that somebody had, you've designed stuff to solve that problem, you've added value. How do you teach people that?
I don't know that you teach them. I think we've got can-do people here, and can-do people do. Yeah. Whereas when you're a family-operated business, you're not going anywhere. This is it. So we're looking at buildings, and we're looking at putting training into people that are going to be around and be our next generation of employees, and training and skills and giving people the opportunity to step up. We try and give people a career path, not a job.
So this is the Tallis facility.
When they build Bushmaster, they build it from components, a piece at a time. They actually build the whole thing. When they got to Hawkeye, they decided that they had all these vehicles to build in a much shorter time, so they didn't want to put a massive staff on to build it from every specific nut and bolt or component. So they decided they were going to build it by getting assemblies made. So we set up our assembly area in there to make assemblies. So they broke the vehicle down into various assemblies made up of multiple components, so that it would make it quicker for them to assemble a vehicle. So
it's all kind of done. So when they're putting it together, you've done that. You may be saving 40% in the production.
When it rocks up, they just slot it straight in, 2 bolts.
But also things like, say, you know, aviation maintenance of the 737s and things like that. All of these things are going to require specialist machining. If we could get those things to Australia, to your earlier point about if we could just get into the value add cycle, why wouldn't we be trying to do that in Australia rather than it all being done in Singapore? You know, we should be saying, all right, we've got this incredible supply chain of manufacturers who could do this stuff. So, well, Ken, you're leaving this in such great shape. Obviously, you're staying to do the training, but you know, I think, you know, there's lots of people around the country like you doing this specialised stuff. It's got huge opportunity for Australia. We just need, I think, to get a bit organised as a country so that we can get the sort of stuff you're doing on a scale, not necessarily through big companies, but big collaborations of big companies like Tallis, companies like yours, all working together. I think if we could just get that going, the opportunities are just huge. Manufacturing in Australia needs to be the focus. So when you pass on the business, like your dad's passing it on to you, what do you think it could be? Where would you want it to be in the next 20 or 30 years?
Well, I never dreamed that it'd be as big as it is today.
Yeah.
When I first started here, there was only 20 people. We've still got a lot of land to develop.
Yeah.
We've still got a lot of space that we can expand. So if we keep going the way we're going and moving into different industries, the sky's the limit. That means a lot to us as well. So.
Yeah, well, we wish you well. It's a fantastic place to visit. It's an incredible sign that we can do things in Australia, and if we get a bit organised, we could do this on a really grand scale, so thanks.
No, thank you for coming. It's been great.